Before life got swallowed by TikTok scrolls and group chats, our whole childhood existed outside. Streetlights were our curfew, and the neighborhood park was basically our second home. I grew up in a quiet suburb, the kind where every block has at least 3 retired couples who stare out their windows all day, but somehow never notice anything actually important. The park near my house was where my friends and I practically lived. It was small, more like an oversized playground with a baseball diamond, but it had one thing that made it different: the old community trail behind it, a narrow gravel path that slipped straight into the woods. No lights, no visible end, nothing but trees. We were always warned not to go down it at night. The adults said it wasn't safe. Teenagers said it was haunted. Kids said there was a shadow person living in the woods. And, of course, warnings like that only made us want to hang out there more. This happened when I was 14, old enough to think nothing could scare us and stupid enough to be very wrong. It was a Friday night in July. My friend Mason had just gotten a new BMX bike, so naturally we all planned to meet up at the park so he could show off. There were 5 of us: me, Mason, his little brother Levi, our friend Brandon, and our other friend Josh. We rode around for a while, doing laps around the baseball field, then ended up by the playground. The sun had already dipped, leaving that dim blue glow where everything looks way darker than it really is. The streetlights along the road flickered on, but the playground itself always stayed mostly in shadow. We climbed up onto the wooden platform that overlooked the swings, our usual spot. It was high enough to get a decent view, but tucked behind some big tree branches, so we always felt like we were hidden. For a while it was normal. Dumb jokes, arguments about whose bike was faster, complaining about summer homework. But around 10 p.m., things took a strange turn. Levi stopped mid-sentence and said, "Do you guys see someone on the trail?" We all looked. At first I didn't see anything, but then I noticed it. Halfway down the gravel path was a shape, a person, still, completely still, standing dead center of the trail like they were made of stone. "Probably some jogger," Brandon said. "At like 10 p.m., Mason replied. The figure didn't move, not even a head tilt, just standing there facing us. "Maybe they're looking at their phone," I asked. "No," Levi whispered. "They're looking at us." Something about the way he said it made all of us uneasy. The shape didn't walk closer. It didn't turn around. It just stood there as if waiting for us to do something. After a minute or two of silence, we all tried to shake it off. Maybe it was a tree stump. Maybe it was a person who wasn't actually facing our direction. Maybe we were overreacting. And then, as we sat down again, we heard something. A laugh. A child's laugh. Except it didn't come from the trail. It came from under the playground. The platform we were on was hollow beneath, supported by wooden beams with a dark crawl space under it, a place none of us had ever dared to go. The laugh came from right under our feet. We all froze. "That wasn't a kid," Josh whispered. "That sounded wrong." It did. It was a high-pitched giggle, but stretched somehow like someone trying too hard to imitate a child. None of us said another word. Mason slowly leaned over the side of the platform to look below. He jerked back instantly. What did you see?" I asked. He shook his head rapidly. "We should leave." Before we could argue, something scraped the underside of the platform. A long dragging sound, like fingers running along the wood. Brandon whispered, "No, no, no, I'm not doing this!" We scrambled off the platform. As soon as my feet hit the ground, I looked underneath. Nothing, just shadows. But the ground was disturbed, like someone had been crawling around under there. Deep grooves in the dirt. Handprints, small ones. Levi pointed toward the trail. "Guys, where did that person go?" The figure was gone. The trail was empty. We got back on our bikes immediately. We didn't even talk about it. We just started pedaling. But we weren't fast enough. Halfway across the field, we heard the laugh again, except this time it wasn't under the platform. It was behind us. Closer. We pushed harder. Tires skidding on the grass. Brakes squealing as we hit the asphalt path. I didn't even look behind me. I just rode. We didn't stop until we reached the street by my house. Panting, sweating, terrified. We pulled over onto the sidewalk, trying to catch our breath. We were all shaking. "What did you see under the platform?" I asked Mason again. This time he answered. "There was someone under there, but they were too big, like they were curled up, but their arms were way too long." "What do you mean too long?" Josh asked. "I mean they were wrapped around the support beam like rope." We stood there in stunned silence. Levi suddenly pointed toward the trees behind the houses. "Guys!" Between 2 houses, barely visible in the dark, was a face. A pale face. Too pale. Watching us. It wasn't a person standing there. It looked like only a head, peeking out from behind a tree, except the head was tilted, almost upside down, in a way that no human could tilt their head. The second we noticed it, it slipped back into the darkness. We decided right then that we were not going going back to the park. But that wasn't the end of it. Around 11:30 that night, after everyone had gone home, I was still sitting awake in my room replaying everything. That laugh, the handprints, the two long arms, the face behind the tree. And then I heard something at my window. Tap, tap, tap. My room was on the second floor. There was a security light in my backyard that flickered on when something moved. It turned on slowly, a soft hum, followed by a bright white glow. When the light hit my window, something flashed in the corner of my vision. I swear I saw fingers, long, thin ones, slip away from the glass. I heard that same laugh fade into the night. My heart nearly stopped. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, I told my mom something had been tapping my window. She brushed it off as a tree branch. But when I went outside to check, there was no branch near my window. Nothing could have reached it. Nothing human, anyway. I met up with the guys later that morning. Before I could even bring up what happened, Mason said, "Did anyone else hear tapping last night?" All of us had. Every single one of us. Levi said he woke up to whispering near his closet. Josh said he heard footsteps on his roof. Brandon said something kept touching his doorknob. It wasn't just at the park. Whatever we heard, whatever we saw, it followed us home. We eventually told Mason's dad. Not the full story, but enough that he went to check Park Trail the next day. When he came back, he said, "You boys stay away from that place. Someone's been sleeping in the woods. Found broken toys and a pile of children's clothes near the trail." But here's the thing. None of the clothes were new. They looked decades old, moldy, torn, like they'd been buried for years. There were no footprints around them. No signs of someone living there. Just the toys, the clothes, and something else. A message scratched into a tree trunk near the playground. Catch me. We never went back after that. None of us ever even rode past the park again. And even now, years later, when I drive by that old neighborhood, I can't bring myself to look toward the woods. Because I know, somewhere in those trees, something is still watching. And sometimes on quiet nights, I swear I still hear that laugh echoing in the back of my mind.